Yo, what's cracking, everybody? Back with another video here. Just getting ready to hit the gym and get shoulder and legs knocked out from my next workout. And there's a topic that I wanted to discuss that's very near and dear to my heart. Um, but before I get into that, um, let me just go over my workout routine real quick. So I've kind of switched things up uh, over the years. So Mondays I typically do chest and triceps. Tuesdays I do back and biceps, and Wednesdays I do shoulders and legs. Sometimes I'll just do shoulders, and then Thursday I'll do legs. I was for the longest time doing working out 6 days a week and basically repeating that cycle. But now I'm kind of just working out each body part, one time a week. That way I give myself a little bit longer to recover. So seem to be making better progress that way nowadays. Some days I'll mix it up and I'll do uh, chest and biceps, back and triceps. Some days I'll do a push pull day. I'll do a push day where I do chest, triceps, and shoulders, and then back and biceps and all of that on the next day. But leg day I try to do on its own, although as I previously mentioned, sometimes I'll mix that in with shoulders if I have a little bit left in the tank. Unlike a lot of folks out there that like to work out, they concentrate mostly on the upper body because they want to have the big chest, the big shoulders, the big biceps, the arms overall, the wide back. A lot of them tend to skip leg day, which I don't understand because to me, leg day is my favorite day. I love leg day. If I'm not having a good day, and working out at the gym is my outlet. It's my think tank. And leg day is a day that I can really just kind of go balls to the wall, so to speak, and really push it. Uh, hell of a lot more weight. So I not quite as much as I used to do, but these days I'm not really concentrated so much on or really focused so much on going really heavy. Um, because I'm not really, I'm more about quality over quantity at this point. Um, so not really concerned with doing a 1 rep max or anything like that anymore. Maybe every once in a while, just to kind of assess my capability at this point, and see where I'm at, and then go from there. But the topic I want to talk about, and Grim, I think you mentioned this in one of your videos, is masking. And I feel like I've been kind of a master in disguise, or a master of disguise rather, for better part of my 45 years. And it hasn't all exactly been by choice. It started out uh, by something that just kind of happened automatically, because masking or camouflaging, you're essentially hiding your true authentic self. When I was a kid growing up, and I think I spent probably more time than I should have trying to fit in, and I just knew that I was different than a lot of other people around me. I knew that I was being adopted. I was much different, in appearance and height, everything else than everyone else in my family. Which is fine, but there was just a lot of unanswered questions. Um, but like a lot of other people out there, I quickly realized at a young age that I just didn't fit society's mold. I spent the biggest share of my youth, in trouble. I did a lot of stupid things, as I mentioned in the last video. But I guess some of it was more or less an experiment, just trying to figure out, who I fit in with, where I fit in. But I eventually did get to a point where I decided, why am I trying so hard to fit in? To some people, life is all about a popularity contest, but to me, I could give a shit less about being popular, and even about fitting in. Um, but when you do cross paths with somebody that that's or a group, be it even a small group, take you like you, Graham, and Nigel. I think we have a lot of similarities and a lot of things in common. But when you find a group like that, or a small circle that you find that you do have a lot of commonalities or similarities with, you feel you kind of, okay, maybe I do fit in. Maybe I'm talking with some like-minded individuals. Which is great. To me, it's liberating. It's very refreshing. But for the biggest share of my life, I've masked. You know, I've dealt with, and even to this day, a lot of anxiety, a lot of social anxiety, a lot of depression, things like that. Um, a lot of the jobs that I've worked at, if I go back and look at what I've worked in the past, I can honestly say that the jobs that I enjoyed most are the ones where I was more, kind of working in solitude or isolation. I can work with other people. I do consider myself a team player. I can be a team player, but a lot of the times I think that there's clashing of personalities because somebody does something a certain way and maybe I just don't agree with it, and maybe I offer my opinion. Maybe it comes off as, you know, I try not to be rude and disrespectful. I try to be, provide constructive criticism, but sometimes others don't see it that way. But when you're trying to, interact with or inject yourself into a group that where you're kind of the odd man out, well, obviously the majority is gonna win. But when I look back to when I was working in tech, I was working in enterprise environments. I was working in a corporate environment. I was always, I was the quiet guy. I didn't really say much. I didn't really contribute in meetings. Um, I didn't really say much. And, part of that is I've always come to learn in life that, the loudest person in the room isn't always the smartest. And, I'm like, like the whole precipice behind, Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio through and through. And, I kind of, like the scorpion, I kind of, hide in the darkness, or kind of hide in my lair. And I come out, when I'm ready, when I'm ready to sting, so to speak. But I like to lay in wait and just listen and just take in kind of the environment around me, because I feel like when I'm silent, I can take more in, and I'm learning. And I think some people see that as me not contributing or me not trying to be, you know, part of the group or part of the team, which is, not the case, not always. Um, I'm just trying to listen, absorb, and process and learn and take things in. But the when it comes to masking or camouflaging, yeah, I feel that you're hiding or camouflaging your true authentic self. And I have found on many occasions that some people, I feel that some people just can't handle my true authentic self. But masking is something that I've always done, especially in a corporate environment. And I've noticed and I've found that as I've gotten older, just how detrimental it can be to your overall health. It's exhausting. It's incredibly exhausting. I could come home from an 8, 9, 10 hour shift, and even with minimal to no interaction with other people around me, and just be completely exhausted. When I'm in a group setting, or when I'm in a meeting, which I freaking loathe meetings, especially in the corporate world. Don't even get me started on that, because most of them are just filled with fluff and unnecessary crap. You know, I like to be able to take something away, something actionable, something that I can work on or do or improve upon. But most of those meetings were anything but that. So, and masking, is something I would do quite a bit. I always had things in my head that I wanted to say. There was always things I wanted to do, but I always felt that to fit into society's mold, especially in a corporate environment or the corporate world, I had to hide a lot of stuff. I had to hide my true authentic self, not because I was so much afraid of what others might say or think, but just because I felt that maybe it just wouldn't be the right fit. Um, Maybe I just felt that my contributions, just wouldn't be applicable to uh, or conducive to the environment that I'm in or the people that I'm interacting with. So, and then masking is also part of, well, it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression. I will say, I will openly admit that as of a few years ago, um, I was diagnosed, or my doctor believes that I'm could be a late diagnosed autistic, or high functioning autism, you know. And that may be the case. I've kind of done some research on that, and there are some traits that appear to fall in line with kind of who I am, how I act, how I kind of see myself. Some of it matches up and aligns, but the masking has caused so much stress, so much mental strain, so much burnout that by the time I get home, or when I was working in corporate, the corporate world, I'd get home and I'd just be so exhausted. I feel like, okay, I can't be my true authentic self around these people, and I was literally holding back and suppressing and internalizing so many things I wanted to do and say. I was just literally robbing myself of my true authentic self, of who I am. And growing up, I wasn't even sure who me was, or was supposed to be. I kind of had to carve my own path. I had to grow up quick. It was kind of a survival mode type of thing, which has kind of helped shape the person that I am today. And I really don't regret that. Not entirely. There's definitely a lot of things that I've learned. Most everything that I've done in life, I mean, I'm pretty much self-taught. If there's something I want to learn, I want to do, I just go after it. Working in tech for over 25 years, I'm 95% self-taught. It was just a certain mindset of, I'm not going to let this beat me. If I want to learn something, I want to figure this out. Then that's what I'm going to do. When I set my mind to something, I do it. And I get so hyper focused on something, and then also that's kind of where the ADHD comes in. I have all these different interests. I start this project, don't finish it, so I move on to this project, don't finish it, and just keep. It's a vicious cycle. But with all the things that I've been through in life, as of recent, I finally decided that I want to turn my trauma and hurt into something positive and productive. That I feel like that's what I need to do, because 45 years old, and I look at myself, I'm like, I really don't feel like I've been very successful. There's so many things I want to do, and there's things I feel I need to do. But in order to do that, I need to drop that mask, and I need to stop worrying so much about what others might think, or how I might fit into that mold or fit into society. At this point, honestly, and it's kind of been this way for a while, at this point, I just don't care. I really don't care. I'm going to be my true authentic self. I don't give a crap what people think or what they say. I've always kept a small circle, or from early adulthood on, I've kept a small circle. There's a lot of associations or acquaintances, and even some friends that I had to separate from, unfortunately. But just because things are going down a bad path. But I've always felt that those with the most amount of friends, those with dozens upon dozens and hundreds of friends or associates, to me, a lot of those people are just fake. But those with the least amount, or that keep a small circle, those are usually the real ones. Those are the realist, so to speak. Oh, there's my kitty, Shadow, one of them. I had a feeling this was going to happen at some point, but that's all right. I love animals, and I tell you what, cats, dogs, all of them, they are just they're incredibly therapeutic. I mean, there's some days where I'll just sit in the front room and just watch birds. I mean, it's just it's kind of nature's natural cure for depression. So I definitely appreciate that. But the extreme highs, the extreme lows, everything that comes with masking. And you know, I feel like I could go so much deeper into this, and I think I will in a future video. I want to keep these videos, you know, I don't want to make another 40-minute video, even though I could very easily. But you know, when you mask, and you know, which leads to depression, uh, when you experience a small setback, even that small setback can feel like you've just been buried in an avalanche of shit. You know, everything just feels like it's amplified. You know, what may seem, you know, trivial to one person, or, you know, what society may define as trivial to you, you know, having masked and being so depressed, it just feels like everything is just amplified times, you know, times 10. And when you're not able to, or when you don't allow yourself to be your own, to let your true authentic self shine, for lack of a better word, I feel like you're robbing yourself. You know, you're taking years off of your life. You're just contributing to that depression and you know, anxiety that you just don't, you really don't need. So, you know, and everything just kind of piles on, you know, after a while. But the extreme highs, the extreme lows, I mean, it's worse than a roller coaster, or even the stock market, especially nowadays in our current economic climate. But I know this one was kind of all over the place, but I want to kind of get into, I want to find my rhythm, so to speak. I want to kind of, rather than talking about, you know, 50 different topics and just, you know, going from one to the other and not really, you know, basically just skimming the surface. I want to choose one part and I want to go in deep. And then for another video, I want to choose another topic and dive in deep. And I guess I'm just kind of trying to find my rhythm. But that was one of the things that I wanted to discuss. And I even kind of took some notes, you know. But, you know, as far as masking goes, I feel like that's something that I've done for many, many, many years. And since I have left the corporate environment, I feel like I have a whole new outlook on life. You know, yeah, I'm not sitting in boardrooms anymore. I'm not talking to the, you know, the C-suite or the executives or the owners. You know, we're not developing policies and procedures and frameworks and all that shit that I used to think I really enjoyed. But then I realized once I left corporate America and left tech, I realized that I really didn't enjoy that at all, you know. And the masking just kind of, I feel like I wasted so many years of my life. But now that I'm out of that and I'm getting back into the flow of things and doing my own thing and trying to start my own business and getting back into my workouts and getting back to my think tank, which is the gym, I feel like my mind is opening up. It's like having a sinus infection and you have so much congestion and blockage in your nasal cavity, and you know, you got one side that's clear and the other side that's clogged, and then, you know, they switch back and forth. I feel like I can breathe again. I feel like everything's just open up, you know, and I can just kind of breathe more clearly, and I'm seeing the light again, and I'm seeing, okay, staying in one area for so many years, following someone else's, you know, direction, not my own, trading, you know, my time for money and just being overall unhappy, masking. Now that I'm out of that environment, I feel like there's so much that I've left on the table, so much. And even at 45 years old, I feel like, you know, there's still time. How much time, I have no idea. I could be gone tomorrow. That's just the reality of it. None of us know how much time we have. So I think the best course of action at this point, you know, is just to live each day and live in the moment and just decide, okay, you know, even with everything going on in the world, you know, the earth is still going to spin, you know. If every country goes to war with each other, you know, I mean, that things are going to continue on, you know. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm just saying, you know, life goes on. Things will continue on even long after we're here. So, you know, I just kind of getting that clear, you know, feeling in my head, and that voice telling me, do what you want to do, live in the moment, live for today, do what you set out to do, have short-term goals, have long-term goals, and just go for it, because not trying at all is failing. And I would rather try and fail than not try at all, because trying and failing and trying and becoming successful, that's failure breeds success. And if you try and fail, you're a lot more successful than if you don't try at all. So that's, if there's something that you want to do, just do it. But I definitely want to dive into the masking topic, quite a bit more. But I don't want this video to be too much longer here. But this is something that I have done for most of my life, and in the beginning stages as a kid, I didn't really realize that that's what I was doing or that's what I turned to. It just kind of happened. And then once I kind of, looked at the world around me, the environment around me, and I kind of figured out, okay, and then I started, learning the terminology and the definition of all of that, especially after, I'm supposed to go in for additional testing to see if I am, a late identified autistic. If, like I said, if I am, whatever, I don't care. I'm not going to let any diagnosis or any label define me or control me. I'm still me. I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not going to let nothing or nobody stop me. But at the same time, having that that information kind of helps me to look back, and it gives me an explanation, kind of like when I met my birth father for the first time. Just seeing him and talking to him, the first 15 minutes, I already had questions answered. Okay, this is why I do some of the things I do. This is why, this is where I get my height from, or my genetics from, and so on and so forth. But it's just having the answers to those questions that you never had before. But knowing, if I would have known then what I know now, I think I think things possibly would have been a little bit different, maybe not, but at the end of the day, there's still time. So it's a matter of just getting answers to those questions, and not dwelling on that, not dwelling on a diagnosis, not dwelling on a label, because that's all it is. You still got to push forward. You still got to make that decision to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and keep pushing forward. You can't let nothing or nobody stop you. You need to keep pressing forward and keep hitting your goals. I know this video was kind of a little bit all over the place, but like I said, I'm trying to get into a rhythm and a flow. So I have a lot more to come, and I know I said before, or in my channel description, that it's unscripted. It's raw. It's unscripted. No special effects here. No artificial intelligence. Only real intelligence, and a whole lot of common sense. But my grandmother used to say, common sense is not a flower that grows in everyone's garden. And when I look at society and just a lot of people in the general public, truer words have never been spoken. I tell you what, I think that sums up, society today. So, but I think he's had enough of me. But I'm going to go get some boulder shoulders in, and stay tuned. Got a lot more coming, and I'm excited about it. So you guys take care, and talk to you soon.